Hello and welcome back to All for United. And it's Friday, and it's just another United transfer show. We're live, guys, so do get involved in the comments. We're going to be so interested to know what you guys have got to say on today's topics that you'll be able to see coming along the bottom of your screen. So first of all, I'll just introduce who's with me today. So I've got my usual guest, Hader. How are you doing, mate?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm not bad, mate. Thank you. Yeah, gone a bit quiet again, so not great, but we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Mark, you're back with us today, mate. Great to have you on. How you doing?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Always a pleasure. So thanks for having me on again.
No, thanks for coming on, mate. It's great. And last but by no means least, Paulie, you're joining in again from the States, mate. How you doing?
I'm doing great. I heard a rumor that the Premier League actually comes back this weekend, but that can't be true. It doesn't start until next week.
Exactly. And obviously, we would say that as Man United fans. This is a Man United channel. So, yeah, our season doesn't start till next season. But actually, the Premier League does kick off tomorrow. There's some cracking games this weekend. So, we're going to be watching. And I guess all you can say is best luck to everybody. So, but let's get going with this. Let's get going with this chat, guys. And, well, we have to start with Jadon Sancho, don't we? Because that's the biggest news that's obviously broke this week. But then again, I say broke. Obviously, on Wednesday, Hader, we heard that from the British media, at least, that personal terms have been agreed and agent fees are sorted as well. But I don't know about you, but this doesn't really feel like breaking news to me because we've kind of been told this from more journalists in the know around Europe all summer, really, since the beginning of August. So, in terms of what's going on here, is this a development this week, or is it just what some people have known all summer?
Well, it depends who you listen to, doesn't it? I mean, looking earlier on in one of our earlier shows, you remember when we did the German media versus the British media, and there was always sort of a discrepancy between what they both believed. And I think it's a positive sign that the British media are now saying that the agent's fees and the personal terms are no longer a problem, because that was the sticking point. I remember early on when I spoke to a few British journalists, they were saying no personal terms have been agreed, whereas Fabrizio Romano and Christian Falk were saying personal terms weren't a problem. So in that respect, I think it's a very positive step. It doesn't feel like it, because you know what? That's just the first hurdle. The second hurdle, the more difficult hurdle, is agreeing a fee with Dortmund. Now, it depends what side you sit on the fence. Obviously, there's a few journalists that think, look, there's a deadline here. United didn't meet that deadline, so no transfer is going to happen. I don't sit on that side of the fence, because I think that's rubbish. There's obviously negotiations going on. If United meet the fee, United will get their man. I know Paulie's got an interesting theory, which I do actually believe with Paulie's theory, and I know he'll talk about it a little bit later on why Sancho hasn't come in yet. But I'm getting a bit concerned, because to agree that fee, there's so many layers to it. It's how it's going to be structured, which we all know. How much can United afford to pay up front? And also, you've got to think about the add-ons, because these installments are going to be performance based, and some of them are, in quotation marks, probably like more difficult to reach. So, for example, Ballon d'Or or winning the Champions League. So I think that United have still got so much work to do for this deal to even be anywhere close. It's clear that Sancho wants a move. It's clear that United want him, and Dortmund are willing to sell. So, look, let's just hope we get him in before the Palace game. I'm not confident, if I'm being honest, and I'm just a little bit frustrated. I'm frustrated. We've been on a group chat today, myself, you and Paulie. I'm having one of those days where I'm just sick and tired. I just want us to get the players in, and I want the football to start, because I hate the transfer window. And I know I'm doing a transfer show, and I've been doing it all summer. I'm sorry with this negative attitude. I'm not normally the negative one, but I just want to see United playing again. I want to see us playing beautiful football, and I want us to just forget about this transfer window. Obviously, I want the players to come in, but I just want to see what's going on the pitch, because that's the most important thing for me. That's football, not this FIFA bullshit. Sorry, I just swore. Rubbish. But yeah, that is just my view on it.
Now, mate, it's become frustrating. I mean, I'm quite keen on transfers, and I do usually enjoy this time of season, believe it or not, being a United fan. But it's frustrating for a number of reasons, not just Sancho, but, me, like a lot of other fans, also believe we probably should have had more done by this time. I mean, but we have got to remember there is 3 weeks left at the window. But going back to that first question that I asked Hader, and I'll come to you on this, Mark, it might not seem a development in terms of news because it's something that we knew. But actually, what is quite interesting for me is that, like Hader said, it's the fact that the British press are over this now. And when I look at this transfer, I feel that the British press are probably the ones that are being briefed by Manchester United. The news that's come from Germany and the rest of Europe is probably news from either Dortmund or the player himself or his agent. So, do you agree that the fact that it's in the British media now that's Man United getting a bit braver in terms of saying that we're at this stage of negotiations?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think we go through this merry-go-round, don't we, where we seem to be interested in a player. It seems to be a little bit further on with, foreign journalists like Fabrizio. And then it seems to sort of catch up eventually with the English press. But I absolutely agree with that. I think Man United have probably given them some information for them to leak. We've seen that many, many times, with Harry Maguire and Bruno. We seem to be interested for ages. There seems to be a long debate about, fees and whatever else. We seem to agree personal terms and all this. And then finally we get over the last hurdle. And then in between that as well, we seem to back off and say, well, we'll look at other targets and we're not interested, or, we won't go for the player in question. So, yeah, I to be honest with you, I think I'm probably a little bit more confident than Hader. I do believe that he will sign. I just hope it's very, very soon.
No, yeah, thank you, mate. And I think that's echoed by a lot of the fans. I've just put some comments up there. Announced Sancho. Some people don't want to believe it until he's in the shirt. This comment here from Super Smiley. Hey, guys, just joined. What about Sancho? Well, keep listening, Super Smiley. Put a like on this video. Subscribe to the channel because we're going to carry on talking about Sancho. And Paulie, last but not least, I'm going to come to you. And I want to give you a bit of kudos, really, mate, because we did a podcast a little earlier in the week. And in fact, actually, it was the same night. It was while the England game was on, to be fair, wasn't it? And you said to me and the rest of the guests on that podcast that you expected to see some movement immediately after the international break. And, well, that was Tuesday night, and Wednesday we got this news, if you want to call it new news. Why did you think that we were going to have to wait until after the international break?
To me, the timeline just makes the most sense about it. When you finish up this break, now is when every team is now really into, okay, the season's actually getting started mode. But for the most part, Borussia Dortmund were never going to sell right away unless United offered that 120 million lump sum right up front. And for United, you don't want to do that. Ed Woodward doesn't want to get bullied in the market. If you do that, then every team is going to quote you outrageous prices, the way that Aston Villa quoted 80 million for Jack Grealish. So it's important to stand your ground. And you look at what was originally quoted for Bruno Fernandes and what United have actually ended up paying for Fernandes and Van de Beek. And that's great business. And they just want to build on that. And for United, the time was on their side. There was no rush to get this deal done for Sancho as a player because he's preparing for England. He hasn't played a game since June. He's going through preseason with Dortmund. He's playing in preseason friendlies. He's getting his match fitness up so that he's ready for England and he's for those last two England games and that he's ready for the upcoming season. For United, they knew they weren't having a preseason. Look, it's Friday and, half of our team is still not at Carrington. The other half of the people who are at Carrington are training on their own. So there was no rush for us to do this, but to do this before the transfer window, but the international break. But once the break is over, now Sancho wants to get that move going. Maybe he was waiting for a bonus based on England caps. Maybe not. I think that news leaking that there were no bonuses were so that the player looks better. But yeah. Borussia Dortmund want him to say, I want to leave, because then they can finally turn around to their fans and say, we had plans to keep him, but the player wanted to leave. So we did right by the player. We got a good offer and we sold him. And that's starting to happen. I think you see United leaking that information, that the talks are more positive. We also saw some information. I don't know how credible that Sancho has already spoken with Solskjaer and he's expressed his desire for a move. And perhaps that's United putting that out there so that Sancho can confirm it and we can get a move on it, because then Dortmund can turn around to their fans and say, well, he wanted to leave. I don't understand where all this negativity is coming from today, because we did get so much positivity Wednesday and Thursday that especially everybody on Twitter was saying, United wouldn't have leaked this if if Sancho wasn't coming. They have the deal in the bag. Yeah. And now it's just taking a few days. It's like, okay, it takes a few days. We did 2 weeks of transfer shows where we talked about Gabriel to Arsenal being a done deal. And in 2 weeks, it still wasn't a done deal. Like, getting the deal over the line takes a bit of time. But just because the news broke on Wednesday and it hasn't been completed by Friday doesn't mean that we should all of a sudden say, screw it, he's not coming.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And I do think now, if this deal is going to happen, however long it takes to happen, Dortmund are on a saving face mission now, aren't they? That's their sole priority here. That by the time this deal ends, they've got to come out of this looking good. So whether that means turning the tables on Sancho or what, they'll do whatever it takes. And I think that's
a lot of politics involved, isn't there? I think both clubs don't want to end up with egg on their face, do they? So they have to cover their asses in order to.
Look, guys, United know what they need to pay. They know what they need to do now. They've had all summer to know what they've had to do. They've had till January. Apparently, Sancho has been our top target since last year. We know what we've got to do. We know the price, Paulie. We know the price. So what's the hold up now? International break's finished now. We know what we have to put up front. We've been talking to them for what, 2-3 months with Dortmund. We know what we got to do. So what's the hold up now? What's the excuse this year? Every year it's this excuse. Every year it's the same excuses. Oh, it doesn't matter. We don't get our business done early. We've got one transfer in. We need a left back. We can buy a left back very easy. There's 2 on the market who are available. We just got to put the money down. We're taking our time on that. We're putting all our eggs on this Sancho basket. What if Sancho doesn't happen? I'm just playing devil's advocate because I think he probably will come. What about a centre back? There's all these. We've wasted all summer just chasing one target, and we're still nowhere closer to putting a bid in. I do agree. We're not going to put a bid in unless, because obviously with Dortmund being on the stock exchange, when you put a bid in, that's obviously got to be told to the shareholders. But we know what we got to do. We know exactly what Dortmund want. Just do the business, get it done. There's no excuses anymore.
But the difference is it can drag on because Borussia Dortmund may be saying, we'll take that 70 million up front and the rest in installments, but they have held firm their stance all summer long that they will not take that. So when Jadon Sancho finally says, I want to go, then Borussia Dortmund lose some leverage and they have to accept that deal, and United get a better deal. They time is on their side here. They want to get the best deal possible.
We've got 3 weeks. We're playing next week. Sancho's not going to be in there in time to play Palace. So we haven't got time. He's not going to be there to pay Palace. That's what Solskjaer wanted.
I understand that's what Solskjaer wanted. He wanted all of his signings done before July last year. Maguire didn't come until Tuesday. We didn't play we played on Sunday. Maguire was in the team. I happen to believe if Jadon Sancho arrived yesterday, he wouldn't actually start against Palace anyway. But you don't need Jadon Sancho to start against Palace. We should be able to beat Palace. It's not the point. It's a failure to not get him in before the first game, but it's not the end of the world. And I do think deal will be done.
There's all these things in place.
He's not going to have to quarantine. He's been in England. He's been with the England team.
Either way, should have been coming in by now.
Mark, let's come to you on this, mate. What did you want to say?
First of all, let me get my popcorn out. That was quite entertaining. So I was going to ask, do you think it might be a marketing thing? As I said, it seems to be following the same process every time, and there's no such thing as bad news. So if it's getting in the public eye and creating a bit of a stir and creating, all the rest of it that comes with it, do you think that could be something?
Problem is, go on, Mark. Sorry, go on. Finish.
That's right. No, that pretty much.
No, all I'm going to say to that, the problem is that there's taking the enjoyment out of this transfer. To me now, I'm so indifferent to it. I don't care. I just want it to happen. The United ruins for fans. It's the most laborious and difficult period of time for United fans over the summer. You can say what you want about Chelsea. I'm not saying I want to be like Chelsea. I'm not saying bring 7 players in. I'm saying bring 4 players. Solskjaer got us into the Champions League when we seemingly had no chance in December. We were so far behind. If you watch the Spurs documentary, you actually see how far behind United were from Leicester. We came 3rd. He did everything he had to do to get us in. Back the man. There's no excuses. I know we might end up poorly. I agree with you with 3 transfers. I'll be happy with that. But that's not the point. It's the whole journey. It's the whole just rubbish, the heartache. Literally all summer, we sit there and we listen to rumor upon rumor, rubbish from the briefings from the club, and we'd never get our business done. Frank Lampard's got nearly all his players in before the first game.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Whether we need Sancho, one sec, whether we need Sancho for Palace or not is a different story. That's not what I'm saying. But the fact of the matter is that Lampard has a head start in the fact he has his players in. Managers have the players in. They can integrate them. Whether you think that's important or not, it is important for the manager. He did his job, and the club are not doing their job. The powers of the club are not doing their job.
Paulie,
I completely agree with you.
One last point on this, and then we have to move on, mate.
I completely agree with you that it is important for the manager to get the players in. For the manager, in the overall grand scheme of things, it doesn't actually matter too much, in my opinion. But let me ask you this: there is so much uncertainty. We lost money because of COVID last year. We didn't lose money. We didn't make as much money as we expected to. There is so much uncertainty over how much money we are going to bring in next year because we don't know when fans are coming back. They could be back against Crystal Palace. They could not. When are we going to be able to pack Old Trafford again? So there's uncertainty about that. Now, if it comes down to Ed Woodward sits there and tells Solskjaer, if we get Sancho, if we pay 120 million for Sancho, we're not going to have money to get your other targets. Or if we get that 70 million up front and the rest in installments, we'll be able to go out and get that left back and the center back. Then yeah, you want to hold out for the best deal because that might be what can maximize your return in the market. And that requires Borussia Dortmund to play ball.
But they're not going to, Paulie, because they don't need to sell. That's the point. We know this. Everyone goes on about Dortmund. Well, hold on. Everyone goes on about Dortmund losing 40 million in their recent financials. But I spoke to a football finance guy, and he said the last 4 years they've made a profit. They can, you know this. You're a clever guy. You know they can absorb that loss. Leverkusen sold because they needed to sell. They sold Havertz because they needed the money. Dortmund don't need the money. Dortmund want to keep Sancho. United just need to pay up. They're not going to get him with 70 million up front. I can tell you now, it is going to be closer to 90 to 100 million up front. So United have to pay.
Okay, yeah, no, look, guys, absolutely brilliant debate. And I take points on both sides, to be fair. But, Mark, I just want to come to you. I mean, these guys have kind of already answered this, I suppose, in terms of, look, my next point was is Dortmund start their season now on Monday, don't they? I think their first game is on Monday. Yeah. So, the next thing now everyone's going to be doing is looking towards that team sheet on Monday to see if Sancho's on there. Because I believe if he plays Monday, there is no way, obviously, he'll be United playing type Palace. But also, aside from that, if he plays Monday, there's obviously a massive risk he could get injured as well. So I think Dortmund's team sheet on Monday will give us if we haven't heard more by then, will give us an indication of whether he'll actually be joining not only before Palace but at all.
Yeah, I think everyone's going to be watching with very eager eyes, aren't they? It'll be interesting to see what happens. I think he needs to sign by Wednesday and have a medical in order to be ready for the game. Is that right? So it will be interesting. We're cutting it very, very fine. And if I'm honest, I'm not sure if I can see him playing against Palace. I know that's what has been thrown out there recently and what Solskjaer wants, but I can't see it happening in all honesty. It's very, very fine now. Very fine.
Now, I think one person that does agree with you, Hayder, is probably Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. We've heard in the last few days that he's started to become quite frustrated with how United are taking their time. Probably not just on this Sancho deal, but maybe other deals as well. But other deals are getting held up potentially because of the Sancho deal. But it's funny, isn't it? As soon as we got this Sancho news on Wednesday, everything else has gone quiet with the rest of the team now, hasn't it? So, we were at one point looking like doing Van der Beek, Sancho, Reguilon, and a centre-back. But all of a sudden now, it's gone very quiet, and you could see a window with just maybe Sancho and Van der Beek. I mean, what do you make of it?
Look, in a lot of things, I agree with Paulie, and we know this. But what I don't agree with is putting all your eggs in one basket with Sancho. Look, at the end of the day, I would have no issue if this Sancho deal is being longed out like it is because it's such a big deal. I understand that. That's not a problem. My issue is the fact that we've neglected every other area. Van der Beek was excellent business done very, very quickly. But Reguilon or Tellez are very, very attainable options. I think we've got a problem at left back. I think Williams is, although he's young and he will improve, I don't think he's ready to play week in, week out because Luke Shaw can't keep fit. We've seen that. Again, Luke Shaw gets a lot of hate and we saw his impact and his importance to the team, overlapping on that left wing, outside Rashford. He was such an important part of the way that Ole wants to play. we can't rely on him. So for me, I just find it so puzzling that we haven't gone forward. From what I've read today, it is because of that buyback clause. And if that's the case, me personally, I don't see the issue with the buyback clause, but I can understand it from a business point of view. You've got to protect your asset. And, if you're going to be developing a player to become a world-class talent and he goes back for the same price, I completely understand that from a business point of view. So that's fine. Upamecano, for me, as soon as it broke, I thought it wasn't going to happen. But there are centre-backs out there. Like there was Gabriel. I'm not too worried about that. Now it's happened, whatever. There's Badiashile. There's other centre-backs. There's options out there. But United haven't done anything swiftly. And that's my issue. At the end of the day, it's quite clear. And look, we're all aware of the financial situations. And Paulie is right. Look, you need to put, it depends how much money you're putting up front. That will affect everything else. But United know what Dortmund wanted. They needed to get more players out the door. The sales are so important. You see with Smalling, how long has it taken? And we're seeing now it's £12 million. But before, at the beginning of the window, we were asking for nearly 18. So what is going on? Who is making these decisions? It's just puzzling, to be honest with you. But, I'd been much more calmer if we'd had, let's say, a Reguilon in there as well, and we were talking to a centre-back, as well as keeping tabs on Sancho. That would have been perfectly fine for me. But the fact is, we're playing Palace next week. We've got one player in, and there's no movement on the other targets.
Yeah, and, it's interesting because actually, like any club, you should be really excited as a fan when you know that your club is linked with a £100 million+ player, because it's a world-class talent for that kind of price. But with United, you can't help but feel trepidation. When I knew we were linked with Sancho, I just knew it was a deal that was going to take time, because all the big deals that we do, it's always the same. But I just want to come to you, Paulie, because if they do drag this Sancho out, and let's say it goes to the last day of the window or before, and they don't manage to get anything else done, is a window of just Sancho and Van der Beek, is it acceptable for you?
It's very disappointing for me. I do because as Hader said, there are left backs out there. We need a left-footed left back, whether it's a backup to Shaw or someone that's going to overtake Shaw and make Shaw the backup. We need someone. And as Hader said, there's Telles, there's Reguilon out there. But I happen to think that we are in advanced stages with Reguilon, just because if you think of the timeline where it came out, Reguilon's on the market, so these teams are interested, and as you moved along earlier this week, it was he's offered to Manchester United. Then we moved further along to that buyback clause, as Hader said. That's what's holding it up. And since we've gotten to the point of that's what they're negotiating over, it's gone completely quiet. So somewhere along, someone had been leaking, probably in Reguilon's camp of, this team's interested or this club is interested, to try to drive up a bidding war or to try to get whatever club he's interested in to move faster. And those links have dried up, which, tells me that Reguilon is probably in the negotiation stage with another club. Maybe he's already, and so to me, that says United are probably working on that deal. And that's also negotiation. They don't want the buyback clause. Real Madrid do. So it takes some time. Chelsea have been linked with this goalkeeper for over a week now, and that's basically been a done deal, and it hasn't happened. The final stages of these deals take a while, a frustrating amount of time to get over the line. And that's more because the way the transfer market has changed recently with FIFA basically getting rid of agents and deregulating the agents and having the intermediaries. It's no longer just call up a club, negotiate a fee, and then negotiate with the player. Now it's everything goes through 4 different middlemen. It makes everything so much more complicated. But I do think they are working on these other deals. Center back, I'm not so sure of, because, we did talk to Gabriel, but it's clear that Gabriel was our second or third choice. And at what point do you give up on your first choice? If your first choice is Upamecano and we know we can get him next year, then maybe you don't get a center back and you say, we're going to give Axel Tuanzebe and Jadon Menji more opportunities. But the reason we've known about Jadon Sancho for a year and a half now is because he was a top target, but we did say it's going to be Maguire this year and Sancho will come in next year. We don't need that right winger right away.
Yeah, no, totally take your point, mate. But I think interesting coming in the comments here, people saying, why can't we rely on Shaw? Some people saying here, first choice Shaw, second choice Williams, third choice Fosu Mensah. What happens if Williams, if we sign another
right back?
Right back reserve. He's he's not a left back.
Yeah, right.
It stunts the way we play completely. And I know we had discussion on my podcast, but the way United play, obviously that left footer is meant to provide that width. And when Williams plays, when he does overlap, he doesn't offer enough going forward on his left foot and cuts in a lot. And that takes up Rashford's space, space he takes up on the inside. So for me, look, I'm not saying don't get rid of Brandon Williams. Fosu Mensah shouldn't be anywhere near any of our options. He hasn't played for United for 3 years. Let's be completely honest. If that's your step down from your fullback, from Wan-Bissaka to Fosu Mensah, you've got a problem. You've got Dalot there, who's obviously superior to Fosu Mensah. If you're not going to play him, sell him. He's a player that can bring in a lot of money. We need to just stop with this sentimental rubbish that we have as United fans, where, if someone's from the academy, they're good enough. Fosu Mensah's not good enough. He needs to go. With Brandon Williams, I like him. I like his tenacity, but he's a right back. Get a left-footed left back so that when Shaw doesn't play or whoever comes in plays, there's not that much of a difference in terms of the style of play and our system.
And while you talk about Dalot, there has been rumours just before we come on the show, actually, that he's growing quite increasingly unhappy at the club, which you can understand because he's not playing. He would be interested in a move, but right now I don't think United are particularly ready to sell him because apparently he doesn't have permission to leave the club. I just want to drag a comment up here. Mark, I'm going to come to you on this. It said that the foreign journalist where these reports claim that Solskjaer's frustrated said that he should be frustrated, not that he is frustrated. But actually, I get what that guy's saying. So there's been a misinterpretation there of the comment. But actually, if I was Solskjaer, I would be quite worried because he's been watching as a United fan now for the last 6-7 years, on the couch, in front of the TV, like all of us. And he's seen time and time again managers not be able to get the players that they want to into the club. We saw it with Mourinho, and then we know how that next season went. If players don't come through the door and the team ultimately suffers because of that, who's going to pay the price?
Well, I think on track record, we've seen the manager.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think it was a bit it's a tough one because obviously we got third, and that was an amazing achievement, something we didn't expect. But I think that probably is a double-edged sword, isn't it? I don't think that really helped him. I think now that we were able to qualify for the Champions League, and we've got that money from the the money that will come in from the revenue of getting in the Champions League, it's probably handicaps Ole a little bit. And I think if we had finished outside the top four, or maybe even fourth, it might have forced their hands a bit quicker. Just going back to some of the other things you mentioned, I really do, there's a first time for everything. And I really am hopeful that there are other things going on in the background. We saw it with Donny van der Beek. And I really hope that whilst they might be putting all their eggs in one basket, they love the attention. They love to create a bit of a story with it all. And perhaps, once Sancho is done, because his is going to be a very complicated deal, then there may be one or two others that might come in.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ole, it's unfortunate for him. I think, as I said, double-edged sword. It's a shame. Obviously, it's great that we came third, but I think that because we come third, it's probably not forced the hand of the owners, really. I just hope that he is able to get who he wants in quick enough so we can see a quick integration and then, kick on and start as we mean to go on.
Yeah, no, and I think it's interesting there that you state about the double-edged sword with him getting in the Champions League, whether it's really helped too much. Because for me, it's a bit like rinse, repeat, isn't it? It's sort of, you've got this situation where now the fans will be expecting, progression next season, but then you have a feeling that the board actually will be happy with that top four, so he'll not have faced any pressure from the board immediately, but there'll be pressure from fans if we don't start well, especially the Ole out crowd hater. And then when that starts to gather momentum, that's when the pressure comes on the board. They have to make that decision, and then they can't seem to be adept enough to realize that this all started with them.
Is it me? Or is it
sorry,
Paulie?
yeah.
Okay. No, look, this is where I suppose my issue with ambition comes from, because why is it the case that Ole gets into top four, and then there's this that we're even saying that, it's a double-edged sword. If he didn't get in the top four, we'd have spent more money. It shouldn't be the case. We got into top four. We should be pushing on for more. Yeah. And unfortunately, that's my issue with the ambition, that the owners don't match the ambition of the fans. That's the problem. They don't they don't see the value in going and spending 200 million if their return is 30 million, to win the Premier League. That's not how they work. They're not like Roman Abramovich. I'm not saying I want to be like Chelsea, but this is the point when I talk about the ambition today, when I was saying that, I'm not saying that I want us to go and sign 7 players. 4 players is enough. We just want 4 players to come in and give Ole all the tools that he can to, to challenge and to do the best job that he can do. At the end of the day, look, I will put my hands up, okay, in December, and I said I want Ole out. I'll put my hands up, and I'll put my hands up and say I made a mistake, because you know what? The way he's turned it around, the resilience he's shown, the way that he's trying to reset the culture is phenomenal. And I put my hands up and I say I made a mistake. And at the end of the day, he deserves credit for what he's done. So give him the tools to do it. I just don't understand why they're not. At the end of the day, if they don't give him the tools to do it, let's say we go in with 2 signings, and come Christmas, we have a couple of injuries. He's going to be the one that gets sacked. And then, as you say, rinse, repeat. Who comes in? Let's say Pochettino will spend a lot of money to get back into the top 4, spend 250 million. And then same thing will happen. You get into top 4, they won't spend the money, et cetera, et cetera. So look, I'm not saying the Glazers haven't spent the money, and that's the point. They've spent a lot of money, but the way we spent it is badly. We've got legacy problems from poor transfers that are now catching up to us. COVID has happened. Yes, money is tight. But at the end of the day, there are achievable targets out there. Maybe not Jadon Sancho is expensive, but we could have got a left back. We could have gone for a centre back. There are options out there. And Ole's going in while other teams have gone and bought in 3, 4, 5 players. That's my problem.
And Paul, I will just come to you quickly on this, just to finish up, because it is a good point that Hayden makes, that it seems to be every time we do qualify for Champions League, it's the next summer that we struggle to do our business, and it's the next summer we almost plead poverty. And that seems strange, because they're the summers where you feel that the club's made more money than ever, because, with their sponsorship deals, I know Adidas, for example, they get a lot more money from them if they do qualify for Champions League. So it is a bit frustrating when you see summers go by where we haven't spent that much money, when we know the club's made as much money as it has before from success.
That point is factually incorrect. We're all just thinking of the summer of 2018-19. The other summers where they made the Champions League, they have gone out and spent the money. Everything Hader said is 100% correct. It's just that's a conversation, and those are thoughts that you say on October 6th. When, if we're sitting in the same position we are now, then on October 6th, that's a huge problem. But the reality is the transfer window hasn't closed yet. And the owners may question their ambition or not, but they may be willing to spend that money. It's just they're trying to get the best deal out of everything. And to be honest, I feel the real double-edged sword here is the social media aspect. And I am by no means saying that I agree with this policy, and it drives me nuts too. But by dragging out these transfers, it is good for their social media. You put out a tweet like today that said, "Hey, guess who's back in training?" And it's a picture of Paul Pogba, and you have 1 million people replying to that tweet, "Sign Sancho, announce Sancho," as if the moderator who, the social media admin who is paid just to send out that tweet has anything to do with that. But guess what? Then the club get to turn to their sponsors and be like, look at our social media engagement numbers. They're through the roof, even during the summer when there are no games going on. And it keeps happening. The numbers look good. And that's how you bring in sponsors and you bring in more money to the club. And even though the Glazers take money out of the club, they still put a certain percent of it back in. And whether that percent is as high as you want it to be is a different story. But 20% of 100 is not as much as 20% of 200. So I'd rather be bringing in 200 million pounds or whatever. So it's infuriating for me as a fan, but until they colossally screw up, and the last player that United have signed that came in after the season started was Anthony Martial. Since then, they've gotten all their players in before the deadline came, or before the first game came.
But I always say to that argument, there's been a few seasons since then that actually the window's shut just before the season starts, doesn't it? So obviously there's not much potential to bring players in after the window. But we're going to move on a little bit now, and I want to finish on a good note. The United family are telling us that Sancho is 100% coming. So let's take those positive vibes and move forward with that. I hope you're right, guys. I think the question is obviously more about when today, obviously. And I think after Wednesday's news, we'd all got our hopes built up that he'd be in for the Palace game. But obviously, again, like normal, we get news on Wednesday and then it goes a bit quiet for a couple of days. But I just want to look at some other news going around United at the moment. Mark, I'll come to you. It looks like Chris Smalling is edging closer to a move. I'm pretty sure you were on this show a couple of weeks ago when we were talking about Chris Smalling.
We did speak about him, yeah.
Yeah, but it's another transfer story involving United that's rumbling on. It looks like we don't only struggle to buy players, but we look like we struggle to sell them too.
It does seem to take a hell of a long time, doesn't it? And I think, as Hader and everyone's touched upon, we need to sell a few more. Jones, Lingard potentially, although I did read today that Ollie's had a conversation with him to say that he wants him for this season. And who else? Rojo. I mean, if we can get those deals done, we could bring in a fair amount of money, or at least something that can be put towards another transfer. But it does seem to, I just think we've got the wrong heads really to, negotiate a deal. We seem to have a lot of marketing people that don't really know how football works and how to negotiate brilliantly with transfers. But yeah, I mean, on Chris Smalling, it was always sort of going to happen, and I wish him luck. I think it would be a good move for him. Hopefully it means that we might get some sort of value in, and we just need to get a few more. We need to get, unfortunately, Jones out, Rojo out, and one or two more, Pereira. So hopefully that will happen. But yeah, very, very slow, and it is poor.
The worrying thing that I find, Hader, is that I read a report today just before we came on saying that Rojo sort of is a potential target for someone like Napoli, but last week Napoli were more interested in Socrates offer, and this is all obviously in case Koulibaly leaves, I'm assuming, this summer. Now, it's a bit worrying that, Rojo is a second choice, backup choice, someone like Socrates. I mean, if that's the case, we're probably never going to sell him, are we, to be honest? I mean, that's the worry. I think a lot of teams around Europe are looking at our players and they're seeing them more as backup options to what they've got. And in that case, you are going to struggle to get them, especially with the fees that United want and the wages that they're on.
Yeah, that's the problem. Look, this is not just a problem that's happened, this window. This is a problem it's been having for years. Our wage bill is very big, 300 million a year, and unfortunately, United have to get people off. And getting Sanchez off was probably one of the best bits of business that we did. Whether money came in or not wasn't really the question. Getting that amount of wages off the bill, getting players like that off the bill, it was so important. The problem is that United have wasted so much money. There's so much wastage on players, that people like Rojo, people like Jones. I mean, Jones, who gave him a new contract? You're never going to be able to shift him. The only time he's going to leave, I mean, why would he leave? Let's be honest. Apart from obviously having an ambition as a footballer, but the guy can't keep fit. But why would he leave when he's he's getting paid handsomely? Why would he go and play at Norwich for a quarter of that or half of that? Why would he? He's got a contract. So unfortunately, look, that's not the right attitude to have. But you've got to say you've got to say to someone, why would he? So, look, for me, this is a problem we've had for years. If you look at how much money that's come in over the past 7 years, it's about 250 million, I think. Don't quote me on that. But I was looking at, for example, a club like Chelsea, 500 million's come in. They make a difference. You look at Liverpool with Coutinho. A lot of money came in. They were able to buy. United don't sell for big fees, and there's a reason for that. Look, it's not just because they're on big wages. It's because by the time a lot of players look to leave, United don't sell many players in their prime. You think about Ronaldo's the one that stands out. Obviously, Di Maria left after not hitting the ground here and being a bit of a snake. But at the end of the day, you see, the players that do leave United aren't players that leave when they're in their prime. So that's the reason why you don't get a lot for them.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, mate, I mean, we're obviously talking about our players, but you can see examples of it all around Europe, can't you? I mean, even in the Premier League, we've got Ozil, who doesn't want to move. He's happy to sit on his wage and earn it and run his contract down. Something similar with Gareth Bale. I mean, he'll probably have you believe that he's keen to get moving and play football, but I would question that, to be honest. I look at the man and I don't see a lot of motivation there.
You can't blame him, can you? I mean, let's be honest.
They're on incredibly high wages, and at the end of the day, the club... Yeah, the club.
You can't blame them. We'd all do the same, wouldn't we? I mean, well, I'd like to think that I work hard for my money, but I think if you're on stupid astronomical wages, it's very easy to sit on that. I feel a bit sorry for Phil Jones, actually. I did read something a year or two ago to state that he didn't want to do his 10-year test.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because of the stick that he's gotten. And I mean, to be honest, you're supposed to look after your own. And quite frankly, some of even Pereira, Lingard, it's disgusting, really. Nobody should be made to feel that way. But yeah, and on the flip side, the other flip of the coin, he's probably laughing. He's one of our probably highest earners, give or take. So no doubt, I just hope either West Ham, Newcastle, and Norwich, who he's been linked with, come in and take him. I think it would be better for him and better for us, and obviously it bring that wage bill down, get some money in, and hopefully put it elsewhere.
Yeah, well, one last thing I want to just it's a story. We're moving away from selling back to buying, and I just want to come to you on it, Hayder, because it's a story we had last summer. But, United continue to be linked to Josh King. Now, obviously, as we know, centre forward, probably play across the front line, but he's predominantly a centre forward. Apparently he's available for 20 million. Do you think that this is a deal worth doing? I mean, I'm looking at United striking options.
I've never really been a fan of this deal. I know we were linked with him in January, and the money was crazy, 50 million. I just don't see the value in it. Look, United obviously do need a striker, and they've got to decide whether they're going to bring in someone to challenge Martial, who's good enough to challenge, or whether they're actually going to bring in someone like a Josh King, who'll probably sit obviously further down the pecking order, and then Mason Greenwood will be the one that challenges Martial. But I honestly think that I think Ole wanted Haaland. We all know Ole wanted Haaland. I think that plan was to obviously get him to challenge Martial. So I just don't think that Josh King is that level to challenge Martial. If we were going to go for someone short-term option, I'd much prefer, and this is going to be controversial, but I'd much prefer we go for someone like Cavani, who's proven, he's got pedigree, he's won trophies. Yes, the wages might be a lot, but he's someone probably who's a bit older who wouldn't mind coming off the bench and he's maybe not on like the ability that he was, but he still has a great output and he still can be a great player for us. So that's what I would do probably, but I'm not in charge.
Paulie, I'll finish with you, mate. I mean, looking at the way United have done the business this summer and the way that they've struggled to get deals done, if we want left backs, we want centre backs, we want strikers, there's only so much that they are capable of doing. And my issue with this is that if actually they sign someone like Sancho and they do get that deal over the line, they actually create another centre forward for themselves in the squad anyway, because obviously, ultimately, if Sancho comes in, someone like Greenwood or Rashford will miss out on a game, or even Martial. And if you bring someone like Sancho in and he replaces Mason Greenwood, then Mason Greenwood becomes your backup number 9 to Martial, or if he replaces Rashford, Rashford becomes the backup number 9. So I don't think it's a priority position. Do you agree?
I don't know how much of a like for like backup Rashford and Greenwood can be at the number 9 position. We didn't see a lot of Greenwood play number 9 this year. He did start there against Tottenham, where he did his job but was fairly invisible in terms of attacking, which, okay, that's his first Premier League start. Nothing against that. In the Europa League, we pushed him out wide a bunch. Rashford, we did play there when Martial got hurt at the beginning of the season, and it's just not his best position. And I think that's partially why we got Igalo. I mean, I know Rashford was hurt and we needed another striker. I do like Josh King, and I do think he'd be a good backup to Martial and to Rashford. He could play across the front. 20 million is probably a lot. Spurs are linked with him too. And like wherever he goes and he's the backup, like what's his ceiling? 5 goals this year? 20 million for 5 goals? That seems like a lot, but ultimately, if Jadon Sancho signs and then Josh King is your third signing, that's a bad signing. If Jadon Sancho signs and then you bring in Reguilon as well, and that's 3 sign, and then you add Josh King for maybe a little less than 20 million, that's not a bad signing, because you are going to have to replace Igalo, and just in terms of we need someone that can go out there and eat minutes, like someone who can come off the bench, provide, if we're up 3-0, provide a rest for our guys just so that they don't have to play. So if we get all the other business done and Josh King comes in addition, I would happily take him. He's an academy kid. He would have that same passion that Igalo has. But if it's in replacement of somebody else, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
Can I put my 2 pennies in on this?
Yeah, go on, Mark. Yeah, quickly.
I actually think if they signed him in January, I don't think it would be a good signing now. I think 20 million probably is a bit too much as well. But he knows the club very well. He knows what's expected. I think, obviously, we're going to be losing Igalo. So if we were to go there in January, if we needed to replace him, absolutely. But I don't see it being a bad thing. The other thing I just wanted to quickly say, sorry, I wouldn't move Rashford to the middle. I think he's much better on the left, cutting inside.
Completely agree.
I think Greenwood would definitely be the one to challenge if they had to. If Sancho on the right, Martial up top, Greenwood would be challenging Martial, and I think Rashford should absolutely stay on the left.
Yeah, absolutely bang on with them points, Mark. And actually, a lot of people were saying there about maybe King coming in as a replacement for Ighalo. Obviously, Ighalo goes in January. My only thing with that is if we don't sign Josh King in this window, I don't think he'll be available in January, because I do believe it's the kind of deal that someone like an Aston Villa or a Newcastle or someone like that, West Ham, may look at, when they see that they're not competing against the likes of United. So I don't think Josh King will still be a Bournemouth player in January if he doesn't move to United. So I think if they want Josh King, like a lot of players this summer, it's a now or never deal, but certainly not in the same ilk as what Sancho now or never and Upamecano now or never. But if United want to do it, they'll have to do it this window. Because
important. Can I say one thing? It's important to remember there is that extra 1 week window where Premier League teams can do business with EFL teams or football teams in the football league. So if you don't concentrate on King right now, you can square up all your business when the window shuts. You can go in for him in that 1 week in October. And I don't think anybody's going to be crying that we didn't bring Josh King in before the Crystal Palace match.
Well, you've got your little dig in there right at the end, Paulie, but I will say that
we're all friends here, don't worry.
I did forget about that little week window, so thank you so much for reminding us about our Paulie. And thank you to all of you for today, guys. It's been a brilliant show. I've loved the debate that we've had on here. Great to talk to you as ever. Thanks for coming on, Mark.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
No, thanks, mate. It's been brilliant. Hayder, Paulie, it's never a dull moment when you two are on here. So thanks so much again for coming on today, guys.
Cheers, mate. Brilliant.
Always.
And that's all we got time for today on just another United transfer show. The next one is on Monday, but be aware, guys, as of Monday, the show will just be on once a week as the season is about to kick off. But don't fear, because there's going to be loads of awesome content on this channel. So do give the video a like. Do subscribe to the channel. Ben's doing a transfer Q&A tomorrow with Christian Hennig, who's going to have loads of information about who United are targeting this summer and where we are with this Sancho deal. So that'll be worth a watch. So thanks for everyone watching, and thanks to you guys. And we'll see you on Monday for the next Just Another United transfer show.
Thank you.